And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello everyone, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist John Cowan. Thanks for joining us today for the aviation forecast. We'll start out looking at flight categories across the state. As you can see, this red area over the southwestern part of the mainland is where we're going to expect IFR conditions for Saturday morning. There is a low pressure system that is parked over the southeastern Bering Sea, which is going to be the main driver of our weather over the next few days. So IFR conditions expected in this area as well as portions of the North Slope. But you will see that beautiful conditions for flying across the mainland are expected this weekend, VFR across most of the state. The Panhandle will see some marginal conditions as we do still have some showers lingering in this area. However, by Saturday afternoon, we do expect conditions to improve from the south across the Panhandle, so some VFR working its way into that area. Again, beautiful flying weather across most of the mainland. The southeastern Bering and southwestern mainland is going to be where we have most of our weather this weekend. Again, the IFR conditions across a good chunk of the southwest as well as up through the Bering Strait and along the Arctic coast. Getting into Sunday morning, those IFR conditions have not moved and now stretch across portions of the Gulf of Alaska as well across the northern Kodiak Island. Marginal VFR extending across most of the Alaska or west coast up into the Arctic coast as well. And then by Sunday afternoon, very similar story with the IFR conditions right where you'd expect them with that low just not moving. And then as we get towards the Panhandle again, VFR conditions across most of the Panhandle, although the higher terrain near the Canadian border is where we would still expect to see marginal conditions with showers lingering in that part of the area. Getting into our VFR passes, Anaktuvik looking absolutely beautiful for Saturday. Adigan Pass, VFR as well. Going back to the Alaska range, looking at Lake Clark and Merrill passes, both VFR all day Saturday. However, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a grain of salt. The overnight fog and morning fog that we typically see during this time of the year is still going to be around, although we don't expect it to be the prevailing condition. There is always the chance, especially in the lower elevations near the entrance of the passes, that fog could still be an issue. Moving over to Rainy Pass, VFR. VFR also expected for Windy Pass as well as Isabel Pass. Coming back over towards Mentasta, VFR for that area. Down towards Tanita, VFR expected all day Saturday. Absolutely beautiful flying weather this weekend. Portage expecting VFR all day. And then lastly, as we get over back towards the Panhandle, Chilkoot and White passes, both marginal with lingering showers in the area. Let's look at the freezing levels. So as you can see, up northern Alaska is going to be where we expect freezing levels to extend all the way down to the surface. Plenty of cold air in that area. As you would expect, higher elevations of the Alaska range getting into those freezing temperatures as well. Most of the state, that freezing line is going to be right around 2,000 feet for the northern half of the state, as well as portions of the Alaska Peninsula, and then increasing to 4,000 feet over the Panhandle, as well as parts of the western Aleutians. Let's look at the icing. So as we would expect with our low pressure system in the southeastern Gulf, we do expect to see some moderate icing above 4,000 feet across portions of the central Aleutians, and then coming back over to the southwestern mainland above 5,000 feet for that moderate ice. Far up north, just off the coast, we would expect some areas of moderate icing above 2,000 feet, and then down towards the Panhandle, freezing levels increasing in that area, we would expect to see chances for moderate ice above 6,000 feet across the Panhandle. Let's take a look at the jet stream. The only area that we would expect to see any real significant winds for Alaska will be over the Aleutian chain. 70 to 80 knot winds would be what we expect in the higher altitudes there. About 40 knots over the southwestern mainland. The core of the strongest winds you can see is going to be pretty well displaced off to the southeast of the Panhandle, so not a factor for the state of Alaska. Moving on down to 9,000 feet, now you can start to see the makings of the circulation out over the Bering here. We do have a pretty large area of 40 to 50 knot winds across the southwestern mainland, parts of the central Aleutians. Again, looking at that 40 to 50 knot core of stronger winds there. And we do have about 30 to 40 knot winds out of the west across the North Slope. And then coming on down to 3,000 feet, we do have a core of stronger winds Over Barter Island, you can see the 45-knot winds there, around 3,000 feet. A core of stronger winds extending from the northern part of Kodiak Island across the Alaska Range, and as well as we still have our core of strongest winds right across the central Aleutians that extends all the way down to the surface. Now, with that, this is exactly where we would expect to see areas of moderate turbulence, with the stronger winds interacting with the terrain in these areas, surface to about 3,000 feet. For moderate turbulence in the central Aleutians, and then parts of the southern Alaska Range, surface to about 4,000 feet in that area. And that'll do it for our aviation forecast. Thank you for joining us.